WILS. A new study from McGraw-Hill finds that about half of all couples disagree about the amount of money they spend during the holidays, and 1 in 4 of them lie to each other about the spending they do in the holiday season. To talk about what that could mean to any marriage and how a couple should navigate this time of year, we're joined by Brenda Roberts, a licensed professional counselor, author of the book Considering Divorce, Critical Things You Need to Know. Brenda, thanks for joining us on WILS.
Thank you. My pleasure.
If you're going to have a fight over spending, are you sometimes better off not necessarily revealing how much you spent during the holidays?
Well, that's a good question, and most people would probably prefer not to share how much they spent over the holidays. Unfortunately, though, if you share finances jointly, that information is going to come out at some point post-holidays. So better to go ahead and have the conversation sooner than later.
Are you married yourself?
Yes, I am.
See, in terms of your finances, are they shared, and both you and your partner are fully aware of every dime that's spent?
We are, and that's something that we actually work hard at. One thing that we value in our relationship is trust, and what we know is that those little secrets tend to erode that trust and cause people to start doubting their relationship and the importance of it, so we try to avoid that.
I mean, couldn't you have separate financial lives, let's say, and trust that neither partner is being irresponsible?
It's possible to do that. There are some couples out there that they each have their own accounts, and they pay their portion of the bills each month, and they feel more comfortable doing that, and they feel more trust doing that. And then there are other couples who prefer to have it all on the table by having joint accounts.
You say it's possible, but do you really think it generally works that way when you do that?
It certainly doesn't bode well for a relationship to keep the secrets as far as spending money. For some individuals, it just ends up not working. It does more damage. Matter of fact, some of the things that people will do to hide their spending can be just as damaging as a relationship affair.
Right, because some of the things people do is they will, use cash, or 10% of couples in the study said they actually take out a credit card under their own name to hide the money they spend. But, I mean, aren't they spending the money for the family? Are there gifts they're buying? Is that really such a bad thing?
It's not a bad thing so long as you stay within the budget. One thing that happens is these individuals get the separate credit cards, or they withdraw money from the bank account, little amounts here and there, and it eventually adds up. They buy for their children, and who wouldn't want to do that? Most people do. But what happens is that they spend more than what they have in their budget, and that's where the trouble comes in.
Isn't part of the holidays, though, having that element of surprise, like, hey, I didn't expect that present, that's extravagant, and I'm very happy with it. I mean, don't you lose that when you're sharing everything that way?
It is a fantastic feeling on Christmas morning when you wake up and you get to open up the gifts and to see what the other person has spent on you. I think that I don't sit around the Christmas tree on Christmas morning thinking how much someone spent on me, though. I do think about the thought behind the gift. And that's what we hope that Christmas ends up being, is it's more emphasis on family time over gifts. There's a lot you can do as far as making someone feel good without having to overspend.
I mean, what do you tell couples that are fighting? You are a professional counselor, that are fighting about money, and there's all this focus on, you just spent $20 here, $30 there. How do you get away from that?
Typically, overspending or hiding your spending is just the tip of the iceberg. It's usually in a behavior that is derives or begins with some emotions that aren't talked about. So it really begins with my working with a couple at just talking about what's good about the budget and how can we change the budget to make you feel like you don't have to have a secret about your spending.
Well, but let me ask you, though, what if you simply have a disagreement on what overspending means? What if it's not really a true overspending? It's just that one partner feels like that money shouldn't be spent on frivolous things.
Sure, there are a lot of couples out there. One's a financial professional, and the other could be a counselor like I am, and we certainly see spending money very differently. And a lot of that goes back to our childhood and how we learned about money, how we learned about spending, and what we saw our parents do. So there are some different ideas, and the goal is to try to meet in the middle, to have them negotiate something that works good for them. And some of it's about educating others on their view of money.
Okay, how does a couple then get through the holidays? I mean, what's the best way to go about actually spending money and enjoying the holiday season as a couple?
Well, the best thing to do is talk about what you want to spend in the beginning. Try to stick with that budget. If you're starting to feel like you're going to go outside of the budget, talk. Speak up and say something about, I really saw something I'd like to buy. It's this much more. Are we in agreement that we can both spend that much more, or how would we like to do that? And sometimes you can come up with a creative idea that is less expensive and still have someone feel just as special.
Why is it that the money always seems to be so high on the list as the topic of major disagreements that couples have?
Well, money is derived from stress. The conversations over fights over money end up happening, especially during the holiday season, starting in November and December, because there's so much advertisement out there about things that you could have and things that you could get, and we're inundated with information about what's the newest, the best, and unfortunately, a lot of people don't have the money that they want to have to purchase everything that's out there, and so it becomes a stressor for feeling inadequate or feeling like you're not good enough when you don't have those items that you see on TV all the time that people have. And so couples end up fighting over it. They end up arguing over, I wish we had, I wish we could. We don't get to in focusing on the monetary part of it, the material part of it, instead of the joy of the relationship itself.
I'm curious, you have this full transparency in spending with your husband. Are you ever able to surprise him with a present that he didn't expect?
I do, and the way I do that is I have a budget that I get that basically we've agreed on that says this is my private spending money. I can spend on it how I want to, and if I save every dime of that up and give it all to them during Christmas time, that's how we do it, so that I don't feel like I'm having to ask permission for spending money.
Well, that sounds like a good idea. Brenda Roberts, licensed professional counselor, author of the book Considering Divorce, Critical Things You Need to Know. Brenda, thank you for joining us on WILS.
Thank you all. Have a good holiday.
You also.